A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for staying tuned to Y254 TV, the #1 youth station in Kenya. My name is Cheryl Blessing, and this is the Power Talk Show. Now, if you have been following our content for the past few weeks, you will notice we have been taking a focus on the boy child. And this is because it has been the Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we want to cultivate a culture where we understand and prioritize the men's mental health. Now, it being the last week, I just want to remind you to check in on your friends, your brothers, your sons, your fathers, and even your grandparents. Regularly check in with them and ensure that their mental health is in check. So this evening, we're expanding the conversation a little bit, and we want to involve the ladies. Now, we know that both genders have these stereotypes and beliefs about the opposite gender, and this always affects how we interact. So we want to discover, how do these stereotypes really truly affect our relationships? Now, one of our guests has unfortunately not joined us yet because of the traffic in Nairobi, but we have in studio Bahati Joan, who is a journalist and a podcaster. Karibu.
Thank you.
So now we're just going to discuss this, as we'll start off as a girls talk and understand how some of the stereotypes have truly played a role in how we relate, especially with the men in our society, because we have these ideologies that will affect our relationships.
Yeah.
So I want to discuss with you as well. So be sure to go on our social media platforms at Y254. I want you to write, what are some of the stereotypes that you have against men, against women, parents, even your colleagues and your teachers? What are some of the stereotypes that you have that affect your relationship? So go on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We've made a post. Write your opinions, your comments, your questions, anything, and we will sample that as we progress with the show. You can also find me on all social media platforms as Cheryl Blessing. So to kickstart this conversation, maybe we can just try to understand what are stereotypes and what are maybe what are some of the major stereotypes that you have about people that you came about when you were in high school or with friends? What are some of the stereotypes that you have?
First of all, how I really define stereotyping is more of, having a certain belief about a certain group of people. And it generates with time. It doesn't just come just once. It takes a little bit of time, because you might, let's take an example with exercising. You might try the first day, the second day, it's not working, and then you'll be like, I know this kind of thing, it's not mine. So it's not something that happens overnight. Yeah. It takes time. And it's also affected by the environment you're in, the people you always let them around you, and all those kind of stuff. Yeah,
that's true. It's actually something that we develop over time.
Yeah.
See, one morning you wake up and you decide, oh, women are expensive. No, it's something that it's cultivated, and like you've said, it's based on your immediate environment and the people you interact with.
Yeah.
So what's one major stereotype that you have, especially against the men, that you say every time that you're trying to date someone or get to know someone, you have this stereotype in your mind?
Okay, one thing, it's mostly men who have kids. For me, it's like, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I tend to think that it comes with a lot, and if you're not ready to take a lot of what he is bringing on the table, just don't go for it.
Yeah, yeah. And there's always the whole, they tie it in with the baby mama.
Yeah, it's like inviting drama in your life, and if you don't like drama, just walk away. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's based on that? What's your ideal man? Because first of all, you've probably said no kids.
Yeah.
So what is the ideal person that you would want to be your partner?
Ideal person. Okay. This question comes often, but I feel like an ideal person for me is someone who really understands me, someone who can communicate, because I believe communication is the key every single time, communication, and someone you can understand. Someone who's able to let you in and understand them too. Men are so defensive with their emotions and all that. So someone I can understand, someone who believes in my dreams, someone who supports me. Well, that's my to-go man. Yeah.
And that sounds like a very good man. Someone who's very supportive. Maybe that's my ideal man too.
Okay.
But now that you've mentioned understanding and communication, those are two major things that I feel like every single person should seek in a relationship.
Yeah.
So do you think the stereotypes that you may have, or if it's a partner, like a male partner that you have, or some of your friends or your family, do you think some of those stereotypes will affect the way you understand each other or you communicate in your relationship?
Yeah, I feel they do. Because, for example, if I'm with someone who doesn't know how to communicate, I'm not that kind of a person who will always know what you want if you don't tell me what you want. So you really need to talk, speak, let me know what you want, then I'll understand. But then some people are like, you just have to, you know, notice some signs. What signs are those? Like,
what are the signs?
Yeah, you know, like, we're not all the same. We don't all read signs. So, like, if it's something you want me to know, just say it.
And I like that you've given that example.
Yeah.
Because men always have this idea, maybe it's a stereotype, they have the impression that women always communicate with signs. And you'll ask a girl, are you mad? And then I go like, mm-mm. And then you have to figure it out. So for you, it's the counter reverse. Now you have to understand a gentleman, because there's some who give those body language, and it's just, you're supposed to read their minds or something. So for you want someone who clearly communicates.
Yeah, because you don't expect me to know what you want if you don't say it out loud, you know. And I understand that men have a lot of issues when it comes to maybe talking or opening up. But so long as you trust me, you chose me to be your partner, you should trust me enough to be able to open up and tell me what you're feeling. I just can't know what you're feeling if you just don't tell me.
Yeah.
So yeah, you need to speak out.
You do need to speak up.
Yeah.
And that's one thing the audience should even get very clear. There's the stereotype that we've just maybe taken apart, because that's one thing that people have, and like you'll meet a guy and they're like, no, you know, women don't communicate, they don't tell you this, but there are men who do that. So it's not women or men, it's just individuals who have these characters.
Yeah.
So based on that, where do you think we come up with these stereotypes from? Because you mentioned your immediate friends or your company, but where do these stereotypes really originate from?
I think they originate from yourself, because, you know, sometimes you just sit down and you're like, this thing is just not for me. I don't want to be associated with this type of thing. So at the end of the day, you end up telling yourself, this thing is bad, I don't like it, I don't want it. And then it becomes a problem to yourself. And now other people see it as maybe you're being petty or whatnot, but at the end of the day, it's a decision that everyone has to make. You have a right to feel what you want to feel. So, you know, they come from yourself, but also your environment matters a lot. Yeah.
Because maybe it's the experiences that also contribute to it.
Yeah, and also the people you interact with, because if you associate with people who are like, we should treat women this kind of way, trust me, you'll believe that's the way you should treat women, because majority said so.
So it's more of a birds of a feather that flock together,
yeah, most
so
of
they
the
get
time.
the same mentality.
Yeah.
So you mean then that you have to be very cautious or intentional with your immediate relations so that you sort of guide what you pick from them?
Yeah, because let's say you're going out with your friends, and then, you know, you're going to this luxurious place, and then they're like, this meal is just not giving the aesthetic, or it's just not giving by your standards or anything. So you'll just have a negative attitude towards that particular dish. And that's how it comes up, just because you are associated with certain kind of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, when I think it's a millennial term to say it's not giving.
Yeah.
When people say that, they just mean it's not up to their standard, or they don't like it per se. So now that's something that comes up when you're an adult. You've matured, you've made this associations, but from your childhood, because you know you have some stereotypes that you formed as a child, and maybe you've been told by your parents, you've been told by your relatives. What are some of the stereotypes that you found out later on and you're like, oh, so this is not the reality? What are some of the things that you held as beliefs?
I think having some certain kind of friends, you know, they'll be like, your parents will always be like, don't associate with this kind of people, they will mislead you and all that. But at the end of the day, when you're out here all alone, you get to realize it's not like it's bad. It's just that you're the one who believes it's bad, but that's what I love doing, or maybe it's something that I begin to like, and I'm like, it's not that bad, you know? They'll be like, you know, don't go out with so many friends and all that, but parents don't understand that through your friends you learn a lot. And it's life, you need to always have people around you and all that. They help you learn things and you experience things with them which help you learn by yourself. Yeah.
And I feel like we learn better from our own experiences.
Yeah.
Because then you really understand why something is good or if it's bad for you.
Yeah.
And you've given a very important point, because sometimes it was from our parents' point of view. Like personally, my mom used to tell me, don't listen to rock music, it's the devil's music. And it was a stereotype that people have of people who dress in black and they have all those things, they're demonic. But the reality is you'll find some people who have very pure hearts and they're speaking from their own pain, and that's why they may be portrayed as demonic or something. So that's very important that you've disclosed. But I also want to understand from the relationship point of view, what's something that maybe the way we have the ideology of light-skinned guys, there's always the stereotypes about the way light-skinned guys behave. What are some stereotypes yenye uliambiwa na hata your friends in primary school in class? They're like, apana, don't date that one, they're like this or like that. And then you discovered later and you're like, not really, this is my type.
I mean, like, okay, most of the times I know, like, most ladies love light-skinned guys. And and then from, you know, high school and all that. But coming to campus, it's the other way around. They'll be like, light-skinned guys are like, no, they're just like baby boys and all that. And I was like, no, you people are not giving these people a chance, or maybe someone did something to you, that's why you're saying that. But I'll say I kind of experienced one of them, and I was like, no, now this is true. You know, I took it upon myself to like not judge someone before I really get to know them. And I was like, you know, let me just generalize with you. And I'm like, all light-skinned guys, I know for now. Yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
Now, so that means that you can give a light-skinned guy a chance. You do not mind.
I think I do mind now. I do mind.
You're like,
you know,
no, it's not my style.
Yeah, and also, you know, a lot of things that, you know, my friends say about them, the ones who, you know, have them as partners, the things they say, I'm like, no, I don't want to be around this kind of a person, because I don't want the same experience.
But doesn't that make you just stereotype light-skinned guy? Because what if there's one person who's probably not like the rest, someone who's truly masculine and they're there for you?
Okay.
What if you meet a light-skinned guy who's like that?
I get it, but then, you know, it takes time. It takes time, but then, you know, like, okay, this person is light-skinned, and, you know, from what I have had, it's kind of too much for me to handle all of that. So, like, you guys can just stay there by
It's like, no. So that's one stereotype that you probably will continue having because of the people around you who've given you their experiences.
Yeah.
Okay. So another thing, I know some people are into this astrology stuff. Mm-hmm. So do you have stereotypes about certain signs that you say, oh, he's a Cancer, I'm never dating a Cancer. Then you cancel them on the first date.
I think that's too much.
Yeah.
Because I don't get how you get to know about all those kind of stuff at once, and you're like, oh, you're a Leo, so Leo do this and that, and you're like, okay, so what is all that? So, but for me, I don't really believe in all kind of, you know, all those Leo and whatever things. Like, they're just too much.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And like you said, from experience, we form our stereotypes and our
Yeah.
beliefs. So based on that, do you think we are fortunate in this generation, we don't really consider ethnic backgrounds as a major thing when you're trying to relate with someone.
Yeah.
But do your parents have any stereotypes against maybe certain races, ethnic groups, and they're like, do not bring me someone from that place?
I feel I can say with mine, at least, you know, they're trying to understand, they're trying to evolve with me, you know, and all that. It's
Yeah.
okay. But back then, I think a little bit it would have been a problem. But right now, I think it's okay. But I still have friends who usually say that, you know, my mom says if I bring this kind of a person in her house, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, you know, but, you know, you kind of really want to try to understand where they're coming from, but you can't, because you understand our parents are not those kind of people who open up or try to speak out about what they're really feeling. So we are
They're
just
from
left,
a different generation.
we're just left in the blues, just you know, wondering, and you'll never really get real answers just why.
Yeah, and that's the thing, when you ask why do you feel like this ethnic group is not right, there's never a straightforward answer.
Yeah.
It's always, you know, we just don't associate with them, so that might be a problem.
Yeah.
And now let me bring up something extremely specific. We know the talks that people have about Nigerian men. We know the beliefs that are out there about Nigerian men. And then right now with the stereotype of some specific tribes or some specific groups in Nigeria have men who cheat and have men who like women. Do you think that would affect your decision in case you met a gentleman who's very serious about you and wants to make a lifetime commitment? Would you be like, where are you from? You're Nigerian?
Not really, because you know, the way stereotyping works is that it generates with time. You know, if I say something about you and maybe your friends, then with time it starts coming to reality. And you'll be like, because they say this about me, now this is how I'm going to behave. Because I'm not going to change what people think about me. So I think with time, it just builds up and then it becomes a thing, but it doesn't really mean that everybody is like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you've basically said, stereotypes can influence behavior.
Yeah.
So because people believe a certain thing about you, they can make you adapt those characteristics. Have you seen examples of situations like that?
Let's say maybe in campus, you know, like when you're in campus, you're like, okay, people talk a lot, and when people talk a lot, people start talking, you know, and then it comes to you, it kind of affects you in some certain way, which pushes you to behave in some certain way that people are projecting towards you.
Okay.
It does really happen a lot.
So it's kind of like you want to prove them right.
Yeah. And then
doesn't that then change who you are? Doesn't that affirm what they're saying?
Not really, because sometimes, you know, when you, let's say you knew this person in second year, and then this rumor or something going on, and then it's all about this person. With time, as you know, time goes, and then you meet them maybe, let's say in third year or fourth year, they're really a different person. They come to realize that whatever I'm doing, I'm not doing because it's me. It's just because people said so, or someone wanted me to be like so.
Okay.
So it changes with time. The more you realize it, and the more, you know, you take time to think about it.
So you also evolve as a person, and you find out what you truly like and who you truly are.
Yeah.
Okay. One other thing, I feel like I want to understand. Right now, there's so much confusion with gender roles and who's the head of the family, who's supposed to do this. Do you think the stereotypes that we have affect the gender roles that we play in our relationships?
Yeah. Because, you know, we have men still believing that, you know, a lady can never earn more money than I do. And all of that, which really doesn't really make sense, because if, you know, I earn more than you, at the end of the day, we're bringing all of this to the table, and we are investing, and we are growing ourselves. So it really doesn't have to affect you as a man that I earn more than you do.
But what if someone came and asked you, do you cook? Because I want a woman who can cook, who cleans, who does this and that. Will that affect you? Will that trigger you in any way?
It depends with how they ask it. I mean, they ask me, do you cook? Do you? No, just come with, do you like cooking and all that, you know, come in a gentle way, not in a way that I feel that you want to dictate me into doing something that maybe I don't like doing, or I'm not comfortable in doing it.
Okay, so you prefer, first it depends on the person.
Yeah.
And how they ask the question.
Yeah, it really matters a lot actually, because, you know, that's where men make a lot of mistakes. How you ask the question. You know, we are ladies and we take a lot of observation and we are sensitive, you know, with the words that you say, and they speak a lot about you without you knowing. So the way you say it, the way you bring it out, I'll be like, are you asking me politely, or are you just asking me because you feel entitled to ask me? Yeah.
And do you think that will even affect the way you relate with someone afterwards? Because I know sometimes people have this change of attitude the minute someone asks, do you cook? Or they send something as simple as send photos. I don't know why some people get triggered, or we get triggered when someone asks send photos, especially if it's the wrong person. Will it make you change the way you relate to that person?
Yeah, it will. Because, you know, I need you to ask politely. Don't tell me send photos. You know, that's more of a command.
Yeah.
Yeah, ask politely. And, you know, if you ask me send photos and I don't really like you, trust me, it's not going to be the same anymore. Yeah.
So what will happen if you got engaged or married to this man? Let's say engaged. Let's start small. You're engaged to this guy. You've been courting for maybe 2-3 years, who knows? And you feel like you know him, but then the minute you get into a committed situation, you realize some things that you don't like about him, that maybe were stereotypes that you used to hear. We were having a discussion actually before about people who are mama's boys. Maybe you didn't truly notice that he's a mama's boy, but then you know now when you're engaged and you're committed, you're like, oh, he's like this, and the stereotypes are true. What would you do in a situation like that?
You know, I need to sit you down. We talk about this thing, and, you know, I know where you stand. You know, maybe you're just putting up an act, I don't know. Or maybe now this is you now. You know, the rest of, you know, us courting and all that was just a stage, we were acting, and now this is you. You need to tell me before I make the big decision in my life. We need to sit down, talk. You tell me, is this who you are? And if you tell me this is who I am, you know, I can't change for nobody, I'll be like, I'll be glad to let you go.
Because you're not trying to deal with that.
Yeah, because, you know, if you really, you know, we are so ignorant, especially when you're in love, you're so ignorant about certain things, and I can't really blame anyone. Yeah, so, you know, ignoring certain things will come to affect you later when it's too late. You can imagine having like 3 kids, and then that's when you feel like it's becoming too much, and I want to walk out. And then you start looking around and you're like, I don't want to lose my family. I don't want to, you know, be a single mother. You know, you're losing a lot at that particular time. And, you know.
And you've invested a lot of your time
and your
energy into that relationship.
Yeah, so you rather make, no matter how the decision is going to hurt you, you better make it while, you know, time is still there.
Early. Yeah. And I like that you've said that, because it resonates with also the other conversations that we had. So our audience, they should still take that away. Notice those things. If someone affirms the stereotypes, and they're negative stereotypes especially, save yourself, walk away while you still have time, while you're not invested as much.
Yeah.
So I want to maybe bring in the aspect of the way we journalists have people have stereotypes. They're like, you know, no, journalists are with so many people, they have multiple partners, they're promiscuous. I feel like I get that a lot. Do you get that a lot as well?
Yeah, you know, people always think that, you know, being in the media industry, you know, especially as a lady, they're like, you know, you needed to have been, you know, gone in a certain way for you to be where you are. Like, they associate, journalists with certain kind of people, and certain kind of things that I feel like they're not true. Journalism is just a career like any other. We struggle like any other person out there. And, if, we are all young, and sometimes someone is just so good at what they do, and they can even get a promotion, and someone be like, no, they didn't get that promotion the right way. But they don't realize that you're young, you're smart, you have the energy, you can do all of that.
And people don't really even see the behind the scenes. They don't see the work that you've put into building your career. So that's one stereotype that you definitely get and you dislike. So do you struggle with fighting that? First, I want you to keep that in mind. And also, I want you to tell me, do some careers put you off as an audience? You're like, no, I can't date someone from this profession because I have this certain belief on them. So while you share some of those comments, I want to read some of the ones you've sent before. This is Facebook, and Maurice Jacob Makoha says, Namushia Cabras tuned in and watching, respect and faithful to each other. Okay, thank you so much, Maurice, for that. We have Dominique Nyabuto who says, Molimu Dominique, nikiwa Kisii County, Keumbe Biz, tuned in paka tamati. Thank you so much. Chariot Festus says, maturity with intelligence and focus. Sura tu tutapaka makeup. Thank you. And that's also a stereotype that we can see. That's a stereotype that we can see, that people sometimes don't like people who do a lot of makeup. I actually came across a video today on TikTok. I think I was scrolling and I saw a video of someone being like, when you ask God for a partner and then he sends you a partner who does birthday makeup every day, and you're like, no, God, please, another one. So people have the impression that maybe they're not intelligent. So we can see some of the stereotypes in our everyday interactions. We have Freddie Komsi who says, tuned in, Autameru, massive show, Eco Fire. Thank you so much. Nichezek, Veve, I think you've missed bounce, Freddie, but tutawambia next time. Titus Tito Wandabwa says, come side here to celebrate the signing of Mason Mount. Thank you, Titus. Emmanuel Minor says, watching from Westlands. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. We have Lizzie Paul who says, tuned in. Thank you, Lizzie. We have Irungu Jason who says, Kwa Gidiji Chimbi. Thank you for tuning in, Irungu. He's also locked in. We have Kerry Trevor who says, following you from Kianjokoma, Embu. Thank you, Trevor. And those are some of the comments that we have from you. We want you to tell us what are some careers that you wouldn't date from because you have stereotypes, or what are some of the stereotypes that you have that have really affected who you date and how you date. So stay tuned to Y254. My name is Cheryl Blessing and this is the Power Talk.
Y254. Imagine.
Thank you for sticking with us. My name is Cheryl Blessing and this is the Power Talk Show. And right before we went on a break, we were trying to understand how do the stereotypes we have affect our relationships. So joining me in studio is Bahati Joanne, and we were just discussing how our career choices have truly made an impact on the way people perceive us. So on that note, I asked you to send your comments, your questions, or some of the stereotypes that you have against people that make you not date them, or some of the careers you would not go for because you feel like they act a certain way or they're perceived a certain way. So go on our Facebook, our Instagram and Twitter. We have made a post. Write your comments, write your opinions, anything that you have, and we will sample that later on in the show. So coming back to what we were talking about, the way journalists have been perceived a certain way. I know some professions like maybe air hostesses and pilots are perceived to be maybe promiscuous. Do you think some of those things are true? Because maybe a few people can have those traits. Do you think there's any truth to those stereotypes?
I feel it just depends with the person, you know. And it also depends on how you look at them and how you choose to understand what people say about them. Because, you know, it's the same way we being in journalism and in the media industry, we know the truth that, you know, other people out there don't know. So, you know, how you're going to look at them, you also sometimes have to put yourself in their shoes and you're like, what if all these things are saying about me because of my career are not true, you know? So, and you have to look at them and be like, you know, give them a benefit of doubt, you know, and be like, maybe it's not all bad, you know, because it might be some few people who make it, you know, look like it's a general thing to all of them.
But it's not the whole batch.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that we should also like make note of. Stereotypes do not mean that every single person within that group is like that. It's just certain people might have some traits and we categorize them as, no, the whole bunch is a certain way. Do you think it's unfair to have the stereotypes about maybe when you're picking a partner especially, you pick and choose based on someone's physique? Do you think it's fair for either men or women? Because you're picking a guy, do you really pick and choose and you're like, I want a guy who's buff, I don't want someone who's skinny, or you want someone who's skinny because of a certain stereotype? Do you think you pick and choose based on that?
I feel, yeah, I mean, like we all have different tastes and, you know, we all want different things from a person. So whichever you feel comfortable with, that's what you're going to accommodate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you say a woman should be comfortable when the way we read a comment about people who do makeup and they probably get hair done, nails, all these things, do you think it's okay to stereotype and say they're empty debbies or they don't have any intelligence in their minds? Do you think it's okay to say that? No,
it's not okay. You know, if you don't like a person because of some certain trait or something they do, you know, just say that I don't like you because you do this and that. You don't have to start adding things that are not even there. You know, you like doing makeup, it's a career out there, people earn money through it, and it's good. And it's not like we ladies use makeup to, you know, kind of want to change ourselves. No, we want to look and feel good. The way that, you know, when men are getting like new PS5, they're getting new cars, they feel good. That's the way we feel when we do makeup. We also want to feel good about ourselves.
And I feel like that's something people should take away, because sometimes people perceive, oh, you've done makeup because you want to be seen, and it's usually a personal decision.
Yeah.
It's you want to feel good. The same way a guy would go to the gym, bench I don't know how many kgs so that they can become buff and feel good about themselves. So all these stereotypes have some negativity towards them. And do you think they affect how we interact even with our friends aside from relationships? Do they play any role in forming our perceptions?
Yeah, they do, because, you know, sometimes you find guys who are like, I don't want to walk or, you know, be seen with this kind of a person because maybe they have too much makeup on and everybody's talking about it, and you don't want to be, you know, mentioned alongside them, and you're like, I just don't want to be associated with her because of what other people say.
Okay, so do you just feel like people should do them regardless of what anyone says? If you want to apply a full beat face every single day, do you feel like people should just do whatever they feel like regardless of the stereotypes?
Yeah, I think you should, because, you know, at the end of the day, even if you're looking for a partner, remember that you have interest in this kind of a person and maybe I don't. So that's someone who really likes what you're doing out there. You don't have to prove a point to no one or even explain yourself to anybody. So if you want to do makeup full time, you know, all day, every day, that's you. If it makes you feel good about yourself, it's okay, because at the end of the day, you can't impress everybody.
That is true. And I like that. At the end of the day, you cannot impress everybody.
Yeah.
So do what makes you feel happy.
Yeah.
So I want to bring it back to, I asked the question about with specificity to Nigerian men. I want to bring it to men. Let me generalize the men. And please do not fault me for saying this, but do you believe in the statement that all men cheat?
No, I don't, because you know, just because someone in your life cheated doesn't mean that everybody does that. It's the same way when, you know, men will say women with this kind of traits do cheat, and then you end up being around that trait, but you know yourself, you don't do that. Just because you cheat on me doesn't mean I have to go out there and start cheating.
Okay.
You did that to me, that's okay. You can go now, but I'll still remain being who I am. Doesn't mean that I have to go cheating just because you did that to me. Yeah.
It's probably just one experience from one specific person.
Yeah.
It's not the entire
Yeah.
gender.
Yeah.
Now, on the counter side, we have men who say women are gold diggers because women will ask for money and soft life and you want flowers and gifts. Would you agree with someone who says women are gold diggers?
Not really. You know, as a man, when you're approaching a lady, you go for someone you know you can really handle them, you know. So if you went to someone who's above what you can manage, what else do you expect? You don't have to call them gold diggers. You just didn't meet up her standards. Yeah.
Okay. And that's also something that people should take away. I feel like date at your level so that you don't get the pressure where you feel like I have to make more money. I'm doing so much to keep this woman that you're with.
Yeah.
Or on the counter side, the man that you're with. Because sometimes people stray away from their types and that really affects them. Now, based on that, I want to just ask a very extremely random question about a stereotype, about a race specifically that you have. What is one stereotype about, you don't have to mention the race, we can just keep that hush hush, but what's a stereotype that you have about a particular race that you would never, you will probably not consider dating someone from that race because of that?
Maybe let's say dominance when it comes to the relationship, because they look at, you know, women as, you know, I don't know, as people who need to be guided, you know, controlled so that they can do the right thing, but they forget that we are people like them. Sometimes we're even smarter than the other person and more intelligent. We also need the platform to express ourselves and, you know, to also give our own opinions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one stereotype that would make you wary about dating someone from a particular race.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I can give one stereotype that I have. They aren't physically, they don't care for their physical and body health.
Okay.
So that's one stereotype that I have that would make me think twice about dating someone in particular. And I feel like we need to work on these stereotypes that we have. First, maybe we can get to know the people better.
Yeah.
But what other ways do you think we can work on the stereotypes that we have to ensure that we do not crucify someone wrongly for something that is not who they are?
Yeah, maybe before you make a conclusion about certain people, first of all, analyze them, you know, watch them, try to get the story from their own perspective, and then after that you can judge it how you want, because at the end of the day it's your opinion about them. So yeah, so before you judge them, try to know the other story, because most of the times our stereotypes come because we try to judge them on our own side without looking at the other side, and you're like, I'm not comfortable with this, that's it.
And based on that, there's always two sides to a story.
Yeah.
So get to know someone and then make up your mind.
Yeah.
So if a Kevin or a Brian comes and hits on you right now, right here, right now, Akombe, yeah, I'm called Kevin. Will you get to know them, or will you already have alarms ringing in your head?
Yeah, I'll get to know them because, you know, people say the same way I say it, like it generates with time, and you know, just because, you know, people are like, oh, Akina Kevo do this and that, that's the way they start behaving, because to them it becomes a flex. So so with time, you know, all the Kevos start behaving in a certain way, but there's always this other one who, you know, is not really into whatever the other Kevos are doing.
That person is just in their own lane, walking their own path. If someone came with the stereotype, if you're courting someone, you're just dating someone, and you ask them what are we, and they start being like, no, you know, women usually rush commitments. What would you take away from that? Because they clearly have the stereotype of women rush into commitments. What would be your takeaway if someone reacted in that way?
Probably I will, you know, try to avoid them because it's just a simple question. What are we? Tell me, what are we doing? What do you want from this? You know, if you make it clear to me, I'll know where we are heading. But you telling me, oh, you know, you're rushing and all that, that means that you're not really bringing out whatever you have in your head, what's going on in your head, out to me. And to me, it won't look good and it won't be something good. So I'll just avoid you.
Okay. So you avoid someone who's already presented that stereotype, because it's probably going to be hard to change their mind, right?
Yeah, because by the time you approach me and you're trying to know me, obviously there's something you want from me. And from the word go, you should be able to define what it is.
Okay, I like that. There's obviously something you want. You should be able to define it. So let's leave it on that note and sample some of the comments that you've sent us. I believe this is still Facebook. We have Opijam Dogo who says, this is a man or woman with lots of qualities that are in the heart, can't be changed. I mean, being focused on the goals he wants to achieve, must be honest, must be responsible. And this is where she or he must share the little that he has, being open and humble. That is very good, Opija. I take it that is your ideal woman. We have Danny TJ who says, the ideal woman is someone you like, whom you like the way they are and you're happy with. Hashtag Power Talk Show. Thank you so much, Danny. And I resonate with that. You have to like them for who they are. Lewis Macha says, Mimi nae, fake hair, fake nails, makeup, high waisty. They speak to someone's lack of self-worth or love. Thank you so much, Lewis, for that. That's also a stereotype that we've seen, because they speak of someone's lack of. Then we have Williamson Inda who says, tuned in from Siaya County. Thank you so much, Williamson. So that comes back to what we were talking about, the perception that people will have that, no, you don't love yourself enough, or you don't value yourself enough, and that's why you do that. Do you think there's some truth to that statement, that if you do all these things, it's because you have no self-worth?
Not really. You know, at the end of the day, you know, you don't have to just sit down and, you know, be boring by yourself. You know, you need to experience these things if you feel comfortable with them. You know, having your hair done, you know, having good makeup, in some kind of way it gives you confidence actually, you know, to get out there and feel good, you know, and look good too. You know, you just don't want to appear somewhere and then everybody's like, okay. Because appearance really matters a lot.
It does.
Yeah, so, you know, if you feel like you don't like people who do makeup, their nails and all that, keep it to yourself. You know, you just have to be like, I just don't like it, which is okay. But you don't have to bring it out in a way where I'll feel offended.
And I resonate with what you're saying. It's okay to have the opinion that I don't like this particular thing, but do not make it an authority or do not present it as the final say. And the truth is, people have different types. Like you said, there are people who like people who are natural. You with your natural foresee hair, Ivo Venyuko, atakupenda, and genuinely that's what he's into. And there's someone else who likes someone who's put together. You've done your hair, you've done your makeup, you've done your lashes, all those things. So it's again bringing us back to sticking to your lane and knowing what you like and sticking with that. Because I also don't think it equates to self-worth or self-love, because essentially all these things are made to enhance us. So on that point, I'll bring it to the counterpoint of the men. Men buying PSs,
Yeah.
cars and whatnot. Do you think a guy, the opinion that people have is, I'm not going to say it as it is, but guys with big cars are compensating for something that they're lacking. Do you agree with that statement?
Not really. You know, you really have to remember that, you know, people have different desires, people like different things, and maybe there's someone out there who just loves big cars, and that's all about it. They just love them. You know, it's the same way when we are kids, you love this certain thing, you grow up with it, and you have the ability to get it now. Nothing will stop you from getting it. And that doesn't mean that other people have to see it in another angle.
Okay, because it's probably just your personal preference
Yeah.
that makes you want a certain thing. It's not because you're hiding something. And one thing that I think I've come to understand is some of these things are rooted in our childhood. The things that you probably lacked in your childhood are the things that you will chase when you're an adult and when you can afford it. So another opinion that I want to probably just understand, do you have the belief that men should be the one who are chasing women? Or do you think a modern woman can pursue a man if she's interested?
I feel like a modern woman can do that, because sometimes, you know, guys out there are shy, and you like this person, and you know, you can just look at them and you know, they like you back, but they're scared. And if you're bold enough as a woman to go and tell this person, then at the end of the day, it's a win-win for you both. So why not?
So you feel like it should be okay for a woman to pursue a man if she's
Yeah.
truly interested?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are debunking some of the stereotypes that we have, and let's bring in another stereotype that is probably held by most people. The way people are perceived: if you have dreadlocks, then you're perceived to be like a Rastafari, or you're a pothead or something. Do you think that should affect the way someone is perceived because of your choice of hair?
I don't think so. You know, this kind of stereotype comes with our parents. You know, they always think that, oh, you have dreadlocks, you're a thug. You know, you have dreadlocks, you know, you're associating with yourself with this kind of activities and all that, which actually is not okay, because at the end of the day, you know, you want to look good, you know, you feel good in your dreadlocks, you know, you want to go out there and feel like yourself. And people don't have to, you know, associate you with certain kind of activities or certain kind of people just because you have them. It's something we should really cut off.
And I like that we should do away with that stereotype, especially with our generation, because we should have the freedom to choose.
Yeah.
And on the counterpart, we've had women who we have been restricted probably in our workspaces because of what are considered backward hairstyles. And maybe it's just you having styled your natural hair, or you're just having your natural hair out, and people perceive it as no, this is uncivilized, you're very uncouth. Do you think that has affected us? I want maybe to pick it up from the professional aspect, the way we present ourselves and the way we have our hairs done as women, and even our dressing, because now we have My Dress, My Choice coming up. Do you think the stereotypes that people have can be resolved in any way?
I think they can, you know, because, you know, the excuse that most people come with is that, you know, when a woman appears looking in a certain way, they kind of bring some kind of distraction, which is not okay, because a man can also walk in looking some kind of way, but it won't affect anyone. So why is me as a woman coming in looking in a certain way, bringing in distraction? It's just because you take it as a distraction, not because it is a distraction. And because you already have it in your mind that women are supposed to come to work looking in a certain way, that's just how they're supposed to be, which I feel like, you know, they should be room for change with that, because you want to wake up, go to work looking good and feeling good, but then your work restricts all of that and you just can't do it. And you'll just wake up going to a workspace where you don't feel okay and you're not expressing yourself with maybe your hair or with your dressing.
And that will even ultimately affect your performance at work.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even just happen in workspaces. We have schools that restrict that and institutions that really have those strict rules in place. And I want to go to a bit of a sensitive topic. Do you think some of these stereotypes can promote or lead to abuse? Because if the way women were being stripped in the past, they're being told, no, you're not wearing anything, you might as well just walk naked. Do you think that can promote something negative like rape or abuse of any kind?
I feel some kind of stereotypes that people have promote a lot. Just because you feel like, I feel negative about someone, it kind of brings a lot of hate. And, hate can spread like real quick. And when, it goes to another person, and then you have this setting of viewers that you people believe that someone appearing in a certain way is not right. It brings about hate, which later on results to violence towards these people, because you already believe that I am right. You're not supposed to be the way you are. There's a certain way you are supposed to be. So it can bring a lot of conflict.
And I think based on what you've said, we've witnessed cases like that, especially globally in terms of race. You'll find some instance happens and then the Muslim community is sidelined. Then some health issue occurs and the black community is sidelined. And recently with the coronavirus, we saw the hate being done against Asians because of the certain stereotypes that were there. So how can we challenge the stereotypes on a platform where we actually speak up and confront them and say, why do we have this? How can we debunk this? And how can we just move away from these stereotypes? How do you think you personally can do that?
I feel like, bringing all these people maybe in one desk, a representative, and me sharing my opinion on why I do things a certain way and how maybe I appear a certain way will make you understand that some things that I do, you don't have to be uncomfortable with them, because you also have things that you do I don't like, but that doesn't mean that I have to make it an issue. I don't like it, I'll keep it to myself. I respect the fact that you do certain things and we stick by it. You respect what you do, I respect what I do.
And I feel like that's the best way to handle that, communicating and having a conversation about it. So wrapping this conversation up, I want to bring it back to where we started, men's mental health awareness. Do you think the stereotypes that we have against men or the pressures that we put on them play a role in impacting their mental health negatively? The way we expect them to be providers and to be alpha and have everything in check, the finances, life and everything. Do you think it affects their mental health negatively? And how can you, or how do you actively help your partner or your friends?
I think, our stereotypes, especially as women, really affect men, because trying to understand men, there are people who don't really like speaking out their own problems because of a whole conversation that can never end of, how men are. And the only way to solve this is you don't really have to force something out of a person. Create a safe space where they feel like they can come and talk to you, and that will be more than enough, because you can't force words out of a person. Just create that safe space, and when they're ready and when they feel okay to talk, they will talk.
And that's a very important thing that you've said. Creating a safe space will give them the platform or the opportunity to open up, because it doesn't come easy. So now, to just wrap up this conversation, I want to hear your parting shot, like to sum up this entire conversation that we've had. What will you say to an audience, some lady who's watching, a gentleman who's watching? What will you say to wrap up the conversation that we've had about stereotypes?
What I'll say to them is that, if you have a certain stereotype, don't fully judge it. try to get to understand. You don't have to be fully involved in it. Take your time, try to understand, and then judge it later from your own understanding. Don't just jump into conclusions and, you know, be like, I'm not going to be associated with all of this. Try to understand first. Yeah.
Okay. So you have to make your own decision. You have to make up your own mind. And stereotypes are things that we all have, we've all experienced, and some of them come from within because of our experiences, as we have discussed. So try to understand, why do you think a certain way and why do you have a certain belief before you can say it's a fact. Because sometimes not everything that we believe to be true is true. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for sticking with us. This has been the Power Talk Show. So stay tuned to Y254 TV. We will have a repeat of this show tomorrow. And it's at 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. The directors just clarified that. So stay tuned for that. And if you're unable to access it, you can catch us on our YouTube page. We will upload this episode. And we'll catch you again next week, where we'll have a very interesting conversation for you. Thank you so much for engaging with us. And that's it. Have a lovely evening.